Welcome back for a new episode of Box Office History. This time we are looking at the Toy Story franchise. And next time I'm going to leave a mystery, the next movie franchise I will look at box office history of. And anyways, as I said, this one will be on the Toy Story franchise. A total of 4 films to look at from, of course, Pixar. The first one, the original Toy Story, was released in 1995, rated G, budget unknown. And I would assume, though, it was pretty high given how expensive 3D animation was in the 1990s, keep in mind. Total domestic box office. Domestically, it would get 59.8% of the total global box office. So might as well say more or less 60%. It made $223,225,679 total domestically. Worldwide box office, it would gross $373,554,033. So for the first film and the very first Pixar film, as well as historically speaking, the first full CG 3D animated movie in history. It broke a lot of ground. And then we would not see for another few years the first, of course, obviously, sequel from Pixar, Toy Story 2, which would be released in 1999, towards the end of the millennia, I guess you could say, as well as the decade, end of an era. Toy Story 2 would be, of course, rated G. All the films are rated G. With a budget of $90 million. So pretty decent sized budget at the time. You would see definitely a few inklings here and there of impressive improvements on the CG overall. More so, I would say, on the human models looked better than previously. You don't really notice too much of a difference improvement, graphically speaking, on the toys themselves, though you will notice, if you've watched plenty of CG stuff over the years and know decent amount of history on 3D animated film shows and everything in between, you tend to look more closely at stuff like textures and things like that, like how light reflects, to look at the overall textures and the grading and these details. Sorry, getting off topic a little. But total box office, Toy Story 2 domestically would make 49.4%, so that's about a 20% decrease from the first film, though domestically it would make $245,852,179, as well as it would gross worldwide a decent increase. It would make $497,375,381. So more or less, it would see about a $120 million increase at the global box office. A pretty decent increase overall. Now, the next film would not come for 11 years, believe it or not. Quite a time frame in between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. As well as a big increase in box office revenue as well. Toy Story 3 would be released in 2010, the beginning of the 2010s. Budget of $200 million, so well more than double the budget from the previous film. And you can definitely tell it too in Toy Story 3, with the ability to handle more characters, CG animated characters at one time. And definitely a real improvement you can tell with like the backgrounds and everything like that, details like shadows of toys and things like this, to make it look a little more realistic and believable. You have to add at least inklings of improvements over time, though there was definitely a huge upgrade. You could tell overall quality of the CG from obviously Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3 was a huge leap. because of how much technology had become throughout that, well, 11-year time frame. Um, it would do domestically 38.9% domestically, which is actually not bad. Domestically, it made $415,004,880 total global box office. Um, this film would be, I believe it was the first fully CG animated movie to actually join the $1 billion club. Total, Toy Story 3 would do globally, take in $1,066,970,811 at the global box office. Now, the last one, Toy Story 4, which we would see another pretty decent time gap. We would see a 9-year gap between Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, and a lot of stuff had changed in those 9 years. Though you don't see quite as a huge of a change overall graphically speaking from Toy Story 3 to 4, because Pixar was already basically at the limits at the time what you could do really with toy characters and stuff. Now they could obviously do a lot of improvements on the character models, like human characters and things like that, but they want to keep it somewhat simplistic, since, after all, it's called Toy Story, and obviously revolves around the toys, so it makes more sense to focus less on the human aspect and more on the toys themselves, obviously. Toy Story 4 would be released 2019, rated G, of course, with a budget again of $200 million. Domestically, it would make 40.4% of its global box office. Domestically, it would do $434,038,008. Globally, it would do $1,073,394,593 total box office. So, with that said, and that is the box office history of the very much beloved Toy Story series. Let me know if you'd like me to do one of these in the future, maybe on the only other really franchise, so to speak, of which being the Cars franchise, though. I'll listen, see what your opinions are. Though I am, sometime in the near future, I'm working on a pretty big size box office history list, and it's going to be on the Star Trek franchise as a whole, starting all the way back with the original motion picture released in 1979, all the way up into the last of the JJ era, of course that being Beyond in 2016. So 79 to 2016 is quite a different time gap. But that's something I'm working on for the future, as well as the Alien franchise. And I want to quickly mention, I'm working on a 2-part series a couple months from now. It's going to be a 2-part special on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So stay tuned for all these future box office histories. Hopefully you enjoyed this, found this at least somewhat interesting. I personally love talking about facts and figures and numbers. I love math, always have. So I love doing things like this, again, to use one of my passions, which is talking about numbers. It's just something I've always liked. That, looking at percentages like polls and things like that, I just always have enjoyed these things. But with that said, stay tuned. Also, I'm working on a new special little video in the future to talk about some topics involving TV and movies. So stay tuned for that in the near future. I'm working, hopefully in the next few weeks I will have that video up here on my secondary channel. But as always, of course, this is the Goku Report, and stay safe. Hopefully enjoy the retro wave music in the background, which is trying to become more and more a tradition now in a lot of my videos, using more chill wave and retro wave type music, because I just find this kind of music very relaxing. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time, and stay tuned for a future special, another list I'm working on my main channel, which is a second list of overpriced PlayStation 1 games. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see y'all same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.